Welcome to the next installment of This Week in the NFL. We're here, it's week 9. I'm Kendall Capps.
And I'm Andrew Williamson.
And we're going to tackle some of the key games coming up this weekend.
Start off with Houston at Indianapolis. Indianapolis comes in rolling, 16-1 in their last 17 games. And Houston comes in riding the best start they've ever had, probably the biggest game the Texans have ever had.
They had a lot of hype going into the season. People thought this might be the year they finally make a move, and they've looked pretty good, especially at offense. Matt Schaub has looked great, but he lost Owen Daniels. He might be out for the year. That's a big blow. That's a big blow. He's been a key guy for him for the last couple of years. So it's going to be a little bit difficult without him.
Well, I think the Colts right now are in this phase where they're just finding ways to win. Whatever the week, they come out on top. I don't see that ending this week. I'm going to take Indy at home.
Yeah, I have to. They're at home. They're undefeated all season. What is it, 16 in a row now that they've won. They're on a roll. They're finding ways. Last week, we both thought San Fran would keep it close. They played them really well. But Indy, like you said, they find a way to win, and they'll probably do that again.
Yeah, there's so many athletes on that team.
Yeah, so many weapons, and it's tough to stop, especially in that dome. It's going to take us to a battle of 4 and 3s, a really important game. Arizona's going to travel to Chicago. It's a little bit more important for Chicago, I'd say, with wild card standings, whereas Arizona, they probably have the NFC West more than likely locked up.
The 49ers are still breathing down their neck a little bit. And remember, the 49ers beat the Cardinals earlier this season.
They did in the first week of the season.
So I think either way, this could play into seeding for the playoffs or wild card.
Or even not
But
making
Chicago, I'm still looking for that statement game.
Yeah.
I know they've played well here and there, but for them to come out and really put it to a good team would impress me a lot more. Personally, I think Kurt Warner's going to get off this schneid and line them up.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at some of the statistics, both teams are in the bottom 8 in rushing the ball. Arizona's dead last. However, Arizona stops the run really well. And with that passing game, Chicago hasn't looked quite the same in the secondary.
Well, Chicago's offensive line, I think, just needs to be completely retooled. They can't protect Cutler. They couldn't protect him against the Browns' pass rush.
Yeah.
And they couldn't really find much room for Forte against the Browns either. I don't see it getting any better.
The only luck that they have is that their receivers with Bennett and Knox and Hester, they're quick slant type guys, quick out guys. So some of the times you can get away with not having the best offensive line, but it catches up to you eventually. And Arizona's D-line has actually played pretty well. So I think Arizona should be able to pull this one out and probably pull away late.
And they've been a good road team this year.
They have, yeah. They haven't lost a road game yet this year.
Takes us to Baltimore at Cincinnati. 2 weeks ago, Chad Ochocinco called out the Ravens, said, we want 20, we want 52. Well, now they're coming into town. What do you think the Bengals are going to do with them?
So you got to like that he motivated his team. He got them up. They're going to be ready. They're going to be ready to play. However, Cincinnati, they're 2-2 at home. They've been really impressive on the road this year. Baltimore coming off that big win, riding high emotionally. Their defense looked great last week against an undefeated Denver Broncos team. It's almost a toss-up in this game. I really think Baltimore is going to bring the medal again. Every time you test Ray Lewis and that Baltimore defense, they end up stepping it up. I wouldn't be surprised if they bring the lumber and they take care of business.
I'm going to go the other way. I think Cincinnati at home. Baltimore is coming off a big win, but Cincinnati's coming off sitting at home watching them with that big win. I don't know. Baltimore this year's been up and down, had trouble finishing games, whereas Cincinnati's found ways to win. And I think their offense, I think, is going to give the Ravens a lot more of a challenge.
It very well could, but Cincinnati, they're ranked 30th in the NFL against the pass. Baltimore has one of the best passing offenses in the league, unlike years past. Flacco has really shown that he's progressed. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the league now. I think he might expose that Cincinnati secondary, and it should be a great game, but I think Baltimore might squeak it out. Now it's going to bring us to a big AFC East matchup that we both love. Miami Dolphins coming off a big win against the Jets, traveling to New England, who's at home off a bye, which Bill Belichick in his history off byes, they're pretty damn good.
Yeah, well, and New England traditionally against Miami is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Miami went in and beat them last year with the Wildcat in the first game. Mm-hmm. The revelation of the Wildcat, but the second time through, New England kind of
Belichick, he figured it out. He got the defensive scheme right to be able to slow them down. I still think Miami will be able to move the ball in this game. They like to control the clock. But New England, who's 4-0 at home, their offense the last 2 weeks, they've outscored their opponents, I believe, 93-7. I mean, it's pretty incredible. Once we knew going into the season, if they were to stay healthy with these weapons that they have, and then they added a few more pieces, they were going to be tough to stop. It's kind of hard to not go with the Patriots at home this week.
Well, one thing you look at when you look at the standings, you notice the point differential. And usually that's a good standing on where your team is. Pretty much the losing teams have very far negative. The 500 teams are right about even. The winning teams are in the positive. The Patriots are one of the top 3 teams in the league in point differential. And I know Tom Brady coming out of injury had a slow start, but they look just as strong to me. It's always an interesting game, but I'd expect New England to come out on top. Now, Miami, you never know what they're going to pull.
You never know. But another key aspect of the game, turnovers usually win ball games. New England is first in the AFC in turnover margin. They're a +9. Their defense, unlike last year, which didn't cause any turnovers, this year has been getting picks and fumble returns all the time.
Scored against Tampa Bay.
Yes, absolutely. Whereas Miami is -2 in the turnover margin this season. They're going to have to win that battle. They're going to have to win the turnover margin if they want to have a chance in this game.
I think Miami needs to find somebody in the passing game because you can't score 17 points.
Yeah, and Ted Ginn's not going to return 2 kicks every week.
That's very true.
And
our next game takes us to NFC East. The Dallas going into Philly with the winner claiming rights to the division lead.
Yeah, who would have thought this? Just a couple of weeks ago, the Giants were sitting atop of the throne. Suddenly, they're sitting in third. You got Dallas and Philly fighting it out for best record in the division.
I think the Giants have some work to do. I think they'll be back at the end. I'm not sold on Dallas yet. They look good at home. They've played well off and on, but I think Philly right now is rolling, and I think continues to roll.
I agree. I think both offensively and defensively, they're making big plays. With that, Deshaun Jackson, he leads the NFL in yards per touchdown reception. He's catching almost a 50-yard touchdown pass every single week.
Really, I think he should be an MVP candidate at this point with his statistics.
It's hard to argue against that. Normally, you don't see that with wideouts, but the numbers he's putting up, and he's just such a big play receiver. Plus, he's in the return game. Dallas has looked good, but they've only really beaten 1 or 2 solid opponents. Philadelphia's beaten a few pretty good teams. Yeah, they had the hiccup against Oakland, but they've rectified it. They played amazing last week. They lit up that Giants secondary. I think they're going to do the same to the Dallas secondary at home.
Yeah. Our last game, the Monday Nighter, Pittsburgh at Denver. We've got, I think, a huge AFC playoff battle here.
Yeah, a possible preview of the AFC Championship, second-round divisional playoffs. It's going to be a grind 'em, slug 'em, physical-type game. Both of these teams like to bring lumber. Pittsburgh, Palomalu's back. The defense is starting to get healthy. Denver, coming off their sole loss of the season, goes back home where they're undefeated.
And I think Pittsburgh really can't afford to drop this game with Baltimore and Cincinnati sitting right behind them, and they're playing each other, so one of them will get a win this week. If Pittsburgh drops another game, they're going to have to slug it out in this division and not have any time for rest.
They could possibly be behind 2 teams after this week.
Well, and Denver can either continue to push and maybe be able to push for the top seed in the AFC East, or really, if the Colts win, takes a step back and is now looking at
hopefully getting a first-round bye. Hopefully, Pittsburgh, the one thing, even though they've won 5 straight, they've looked really good offensively. They're scoring a ton of points. They're not even running the ball, but Ben Roethlisberger is having a great season. That offensive line does not protect him. He holds onto the ball. They lead the NFL in turnovers with 18 turnovers already in 7 games. I think going into Denver, a team that knows how to capitalize and finish at the end, just a weird feeling. I doubted them all season, but they beat a bunch of good teams. I have a weird feeling Denver might pull this game out at home.
I agree with you. I'm going to go with Denver. I think they play smart, and Pittsburgh has looked good, but we'll see how they look when the weather gets cold. It's a lot harder to throw 50 passes a game in Pittsburgh in January
Absolutely.
than it is in October.
Or in Denver at this time of year. Up in Mile High, it's been snowing there for a couple of weeks now. It's not going to be easy. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week in the NFL. It's Week 9. If you want to see the rest of the picks, you can log on to AmericanSportsDaily.blogspot.com. We'll have both of our picks on there, and we shall see you next week.